power, rebellion, chaos, and legacy. Few symbols in hip-hop embody all these elements quite like the death row chain. This isn't just a piece of jewelry, it's a cultural artifact, one that tells the story of hip-hop's meteoric rise, its darkest tragedies, and its enduring resilience. From its birth in the 90s as a badge of dominance to its role in one of music's most heated rivalries, and its triumphant revival decades later, the death row chain is more than gold and diamonds. It's a narrative woven into the very fabric of hip-hop history. Join us as we trace the evolution of the death row chain, the highs, the lows, and its journey back to the spotlight under Snoop Dogg's reign. Let's get into it. The birth of an iconic symbol. In the early 1990s, hip-hop was undergoing a revolution, moving from underground culture to mainstream dominance. At the forefront of this movement was Death Row Records, a label founded by Suge Knight and Dr. Dre. While Death Row's music was redefining the genre, Suge Knight wanted a symbol that would reflect the label's unmatched power and influence. Enter the Death Row chain. Designed to be as bold and audacious as the label itself, this piece of jewelry featured a gold and diamond figure strapped to an electric chair with the words Death Row Records engraved above. The original Death Row chains were made by Brian Langerhans Diamonds, but his shop closed around 2003. For the artists who wore it, legends like Dr. Dre, Tupac Shakur, and Snoop Dogg, it wasn't just an accessory. It was a declaration of allegiance, a badge of honor that connected them to a movement transforming the music industry. The chain quickly became a visual representation of Death Row's dominance. Whether it was showcased in music videos, interviews, or red carpet events, the chain was impossible to ignore. But its significance went beyond aesthetics. It was a testament to the unity and ambition that drove Death Row to its golden era. The golden era of Death Row Records. The mid-90s was a time of unparalleled success for Death Row Records. The label's roster read like a who's who of hip-hop royalty. Dr. Dre's The Chronic and Snoop Dogg's Doggy Style became cultural phenomena, while Tupac's All Eyes on Me cemented his status as one of the greatest rappers of all time. During this golden era, the Death Row chain became a symbol of the label's meteoric rise. Artists wore it with pride, and it became a recurring feature in music videos, live performances, and public appearances. Fans didn't just associate the chain with Death Row, they associated it with excellence in hip-hop. However, with great power came great rivalries. The East Coast-West Coast feud was intensifying, with Death Row and Bad Boy Records at the center of the conflict. The Death Row chain, once a symbol of ambition, began to take on a more dangerous meaning. It became a target in an industry increasingly defined by tension and competition. The bounty and the tragedy of Tupac Shakur. As the rivalry between Death Row and Bad Boy escalated, so did the stakes. One of the most infamous rumors to emerge from this period was that Sean Diddy Combs had allegedly placed a $10,000 bounty on any Death Row chain. While this claim was never officially verified, it added fuel to an already volatile fire. The chain became a lightning rod for conflict, representing the intense competition between the two labels. On September 7, 1996, this tension reached its breaking point. That night, Tupac Shakur, one of Death Row's biggest stars, was involved in a violent altercation at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The target of this confrontation, Orlando Anderson, had allegedly tried to snatch a Death Row chain weeks earlier. The altercation was caught on surveillance cameras, and just hours later, Tupac was fatally shot in a drive-by shooting. While the investigation into Tupac's murder remains unsolved, Many believe the events of that night, and the chain's symbolic role in the feud, were pivotal in the tragedy. Tupac's death marked a turning point for Death Row Records. What had once been a symbol of power and unity now carried the weight of loss and chaos. The chain, once a proud declaration, became a haunting reminder of the cost of success in an unforgiving industry. The decline of Death Row Records. Following Tupac's death, the cracks in Death Row Records became impossible to ignore. Dr. Dre left the label, citing creative and personal differences with Suge Knight. Legal troubles began piling up for Suge, culminating in a prison sentence that left Death Row without its driving force. As the label's influence waned, so did the prominence of the Death Row chain. What was once a coveted symbol of success now seemed like a relic of a bygone era. The media's focus shifted to the controversies surrounding Death Row, overshadowing the music and the artists that had made the label great. By the early 2000s, Death Row Records was a shadow of its former self. Bankruptcy filings and legal disputes became the new norm, and the Death Row chain seemed destined to fade into obscurity. But as history has shown us, legacies, like chains, can be reforged. Snoop Dogg's revival of the Death Row chain. In 2022, a new chapter in the story of the Death Row chain began. Snoop Dogg, one of the label's original stars, acquired Death Row Records, marking a triumphant return to the brand that had launched his career. Snoop didn't just take over the label, he redefined its legacy. The Death Row chain, once a symbol of rivalry and chaos, became a beacon of celebration and resilience. Snoop began gifting the chain to Jamie Foxx, Stephen Curry, Eli Manning, Ed Sheeran, and Russell Crowe, and artists who had contributed to Death Row's storied history, including Dr. Dre, acknowledging their role in shaping hip-hop culture. The chain's revival wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about rewriting its meaning. No longer a symbol of division, it became a unifying force, connecting generations of artists and fans. Under Snoop's leadership, the chain represented perseverance, creativity, and the enduring spirit of hip-hop. The legacy and modern-day significance. Today, the Death Row chain stands as a cultural artifact that bridges the past and present of hip-hop. For those who remember the 90s, it's a symbol of an era defined by bold music, larger-than-life personalities, and intense rivalries. For newer fans, it's a connection to the roots of a genre that continues to dominate the global music scene. The chain's influence extends beyond music. It's a staple in fashion, inspiring countless replicas and designs in hip-hop culture. Its story has also become a cautionary tale about the highs and lows of fame, power, and ambition. Through its evolution, the Death Row chain has remained relevant, proving that symbols, like the culture they represent, can adapt, endure, and inspire. The story of the Death Row chain is more than just the history of a piece of jewelry. It's the story of hip-hop itself. From its rise as a symbol of power to its role in one of music's most tragic chapters, and its eventual revival as a celebration of legacy, the chain encapsulates the resilience and transformation of the genre. What does the Death Row chain mean to you? Is it a symbol of ambition, a reminder of the chaos, or a celebration of hip-hop's enduring legacy? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into hip-hop history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that connect the past to the present. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.